As we stand at the threshold of this pivotal moment, let us acknowledge the gravity of where we are. We have crossed into 2026, a year that carries with it the weight of our past struggles and the immense untapped potential of our future. This is not just another turn of the calendar page, it is the beginning of what I call the Great Rebuild. When we look back at the years that led us here, the uncertainty, the fractured systems, and the moments where it felt like the very foundation of our lives was shifting beneath our feet, it is easy to feel a sense of exhaustion. But I am here to tell you that exhaustion is not your end. It is the soil in which the seeds of a new version of yourself are planted. Rebuilding is never about simply adding more to a cluttered life. If we just try to pile new habits on top of old, broken ones, the structure will eventually tilt. To rebuild in 2026 means to innovate, to refine, and to strip away everything that no longer serves the version of yourself you are destined to become. This is a surgical process. It is a season of subtraction. We have spent too many years trying to fix ourselves by adding more apps, more books, more resolutions, more noise. But you cannot renovate a house that is filled with trash. Before the new furniture comes in, the junk must go out. This is the philosophy of 2026. We are not adding, we are excavating. We are digging through the layers of who we thought we were to find the solid rock of who we actually are. Think about the metaphor of the architect. An architect doesn't look at a ruined building with despair. They look at it as an opportunity to clear the site for a masterpiece. We are the architects of our own lives, and 2026 is the year we break ground. Every disappointment you faced in 2024 and 2025 was actually a form of site preparation. The things that fell away, the habits that didn't serve you, the relationships that couldn't stand the pressure, the career paths that led to dead ends, those weren't losses. They were the removal of debris. You cannot build a skyscraper on top of a shack. You had to let the old structures go so that you could finally see the true strength of the ground you stand on. This year is about intentionality. It is about looking at the raw materials of your life, your skills, your passion, your resilience, and your time, and deciding exactly how you want to assemble them. We often treat our lives like a junk drawer, throwing in bits of half-baked ideas and temporary interests, hoping they will somehow organize themselves into a future. But 2026 demands a blueprint. It demands that you sit down with the silence of your own soul and ask, what is essential? Everything else is just weight. And weight is what makes buildings collapse under pressure. The world around us is changing at a pace we have never seen before. We see it in the technology that reshapes our jobs and the way we connect. In this environment, the most dangerous thing you can do is stay still or try to move forward while carrying the baggage of your former self. Rebuilding requires movement, but more importantly, it requires the courage to be honest about the past. Taking ownership of your past failures is the only way to ensure they don't become your future. If you hide from your mistakes, you carry them like hidden weights. But when you own them, they become the very foundation stones you stand upon. They are no longer things that happen to you, they are lessons that happened for you. If you want to see a different result in 2026, you must be willing to become a different person by shedding the skin that has become too tight. It means having the discipline to follow your plan even when your mood tells you to quit, understanding that motivation is a spark, but ownership is the engine. Ownership means saying, I am the reason I failed in 2025, and therefore I am the only one who can make 2026 a masterpiece. There is a terrifying freedom in that statement. If you are the problem, you are also the solution. I want you to realize that you are not alone in this effort. Look around you. Every person you see is carrying their own set of blueprints. We are a collective of builders. The 2026 rebuild is a global movement of people who have decided that they will no longer be defined by what they have lost, but by what they are currently creating. When you feel weak, draw strength from the fact that you are part of a generation that refused to give up. We are the ones who saw the cracks and decided to fill them with gold, much like the Japanese art of kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with precious metals, making the object more beautiful for having been broken. Your scars from the past few years are not signs of weakness. They are the gold seams in your character. They are proof that you endured, and they are what will make your 2026 rebuild truly magnificent. This process of stripping away is painful because we often identify with our bad habits. We think, I'm just a procrastinator, or I'm just a person who can't wake up early. No. Those are not your identities. Those are just old ornaments on a crumbling wall. Tear them down. Rip the wallpaper off the walls of your mind. See the bare studs. See the potential for something better. As we move forward, I want you to ask yourself, what is the one habit I have been trying to fix by adding something new, when I really just need to let it go? The 2026 trend isn't about more, it's about better. It's about stripping away the digital noise, the comparison, and the kind lies we tell ourselves to avoid the hard truths. The perfect time is a myth created by fear to keep you paralyzed. The conditions will never be perfect, but the builder who waits for the sun to be perfectly positioned never lays a single brick. Take that first step today. It doesn't have to be a giant leap. It can be a small, quiet decision to change a single habit. These small actions are the bricks. One brick doesn't look like much, but 1,000 bricks is a wall, and 1,000,000 bricks is a fortress. Consider the power of a year dedicated to refinement. Imagine 365 days where your primary goal is not to gain, but to lose. To lose your ego, to lose your excuses, to lose your attachment to comfort. What would remain? What remains is the core. What remains is the unbreakable spirit that has survived every storm life has thrown at it. That is what we are building upon this year. This phase of the rebuild is about mental clearance. We have lived in a state of mental clutter for far too long. We have allowed the opinions of strangers on the internet, the expectations of our parents, and the ghosts of our past mistakes to occupy prime real estate in our minds. In 2026, we are issuing an eviction notice. We are clearing out the guest rooms. We are making space for clarity. When you clear the site, the vision becomes obvious. You start to see that you didn't need 1,000 new ideas. You just needed one good one that you actually followed through on. You didn't need more time, you just needed less distraction. This is the year we stop lying to ourselves about why we aren't where we want to be. We stop blaming the economy, the government, or our upbringing. We look in the mirror and we say, the site is clear. The debris is gone. The responsibility is mine. This is not a burden. It is the greatest gift you can give yourself. It is the gift of agency. It is the realization that while you cannot control the wind, you are the one who decides how the house is built to withstand it. Let us commit to the silence of the work. Real rebuilding doesn't happen on social media with a before and after photo in the first week. Real rebuilding happens at 5:30 a.m. when no one is watching. It happens in the grocery store when you choose the fuel for your body instead of the comfort for your tongue. It happens when you choose to read a book that challenges you instead of scrolling through content that numbs you. These are the quiet moments of the rebuild. This is the stripping away in action. You are stripping away the need for instant gratification. You are stripping away the need for applause. You are building for the sake of the building itself. You are building because you recognize that you are a temple, and you have allowed that temple to fall into disrepair. 2026 is the year of restoration. It is the year we honor the potential we were born with by refusing to let it be buried under another year of mediocrity. We are raising the standards. we are tightening the tolerances. We are building for the long haul. Moving into the second phase of the 2026 rebuild, we enter the most grueling part of the process, the foundation. In the construction of a great skyscraper, the most time-consuming and expensive part is often the work that happens below the surface. For months, passers-by see nothing but a hole in the ground. They see dirt, they see heavy machinery, and they see sweat, but they don't see a building. This is exactly where many people quit. They begin the work of stripping away their bad habits in January, but by March or April, they become discouraged because they don't see the structure of their new life yet. They don't see the success, the money, or the recognition. But listen to me, the depth of your foundation determines the height of your future. If you want to build a life that reaches the stars, you must be willing to go deep into the earth of your character. 2026 is demanding that you do the invisible work. It is demanding that you stop looking for results and start looking for structural integrity. To rebuild on a foundation of ownership means auditing your inner circle and your inner dialogue. If you are trying to build a new life while surrounded by people who are comfortable in the ruins, they will naturally try to pull you back. They will call your new discipline boring or your new boundaries selfish. This is part of the stripping away process. You must strip away the need to be understood by people who have no desire to grow. You have to accept that as you rebuild, your social landscape will change. Some people are only meant to be in the demolition phase of your life. They aren't equipped to help you with the construction. This isn't about bitterness, it's about the blueprint. You cannot use wood from a rotten bridge to build the floor of your new home. In this middle phase of 2026, you must become comfortable with the solitude of the site. You must find peace in the fact that while others are out celebrating their temporary structures, you are in the trenches, pouring the concrete of a legacy. Taking ownership of your past failures means looking at 2025, not as a scar, but as a survey map. Every mistake you made showed you exactly where the ground was soft. If you failed in your health, it showed you where your discipline was lacking. If you failed in your finances, it showed you where your impulses were in control. Ownership is the act of taking those failure points and reinforcing them with steel rebar. You don't just try harder this year, you build a system that makes failure impossible. If your bad habit was late-night distraction, you don't just wish to be better, you strip the technology out of your bedroom. If your bad habit was negative self-talk, you don't just hope to be positive, you implement a rigorous mental diet. Rebuilding is not a passive event. It is an aggressive, daily confrontation with your former self. You are at war with the version of you that wants to settle for less. Consistency is the concrete of the 2026 rebuild. Concrete is a remarkable material. It starts as a fluid, but through time and chemical reactions, it becomes as hard as rock. Your habits are the same. In the beginning, waking up early or focused work feels fluid, unstable, and difficult to maintain. But as you repeat the action day after day, week after week, it hardens. It becomes your new ground level. The secret to 2026 is not doing 1,000 things once. It is doing 5 essential things 1,000 times. We have been conditioned by a fast-paced world to want the hack or the shortcut, but there is no shortcut to a solid foundation. You cannot rush the curing of the concrete. You must give yourself the grace to be in the middle without panic. When the world asks, "What have you been up to?" and you don't have a flashy result to show yet, have the courage to say, "I am working on the foundation." That is a powerful statement. It means you are playing the long game. The 2026 rebuild also requires a radical shift in how we handle our energy. Most of us are not tired because we are doing too much. We are tired because we are doing too little of what makes us come alive. We are exhausted by the friction of trying to maintain a life that doesn't fit us. When you strip away the shoulds, the things you think you should do to please others, you find a sudden surge of energy for the things you are actually meant to build. This is the year of the clean site policy. If it doesn't contribute to the structural integrity of your vision, it doesn't get a place on the site. This applies to your time, your money, and your emotional energy. Stop spending your 2026 currency on 2025 problems. Stop trying to add more commitments to your calendar when you haven't even mastered the ones you have. Simplify. Strip down to the essentials. Let's talk about the fear of wasted time. Many people look at the ruins of their past and think, "I've wasted so many years, I'm starting too late." This is a lie told by the old version of you to keep you from starting the rebuild. No time is wasted if it leads to the realization that you need to change. The years you spent in the rubble were the years you learned exactly what you don't want. That knowledge is a high-octane fuel. A person who has been down and decides to get up is much more dangerous than a person who has never fallen. Why? Because the person who has been down knows they can survive the fall. They have lost the fear of the floor. In 2026, use that lack of fear as your superpower. Since you've already seen the worst, you are now free to build the best. You are no longer protecting a fragile ego. You are building a resilient life. As you continue this foundation work, remember that every no you say to a bad habit is a yes to your future self. Every time you turn off the TV to work on your craft, you are tightening a bolt. Every time you choose to forgive yourself for a past failure and take responsibility for today's action, you are leveling the floor. This is a process of refinement. You are becoming a person of substance. In a world of digital veneers and superficial successes, a person with a solid foundation is a rare and valuable thing. People will eventually be drawn to the structure you are building, not because it is flashy, but because it is stable. They will want to know how you stayed so calm when the world was shaking. And you will tell them, "I spent 2026 stripping away the lies and building on the truth." Now, we enter the third and final stage of the 2026 rebuild, the rise. This is the moment where the work finally moves above the ground. This is where the world starts to notice that something is different about you. The scaffolding is still up, and the work is far from over, but the shape of your new life is finally visible to the naked eye. But I must warn you, this is the stage where most people fail because they mistake progress for completion. When you start to see the first signs of success, when your body looks better, when your bank account begins to grow, or when your mind feels clearer, you will be tempted to go back to the adding mindset. You will feel the urge to start piling on new projects and distractions because you feel powerful again. But the 2026 rebuild is different. We do not stop stripping away the unnecessary just because we have reached the second floor. In fact, the higher you build, the more dangerous extra weight becomes. To finish this rebuild, you must maintain the same radical ownership that you had in the trenches. Ownership isn't just for failures, it is for successes too. You must take ownership of your growth. You must realize that this new life you are living is not a fluke. It is the direct result of the bricks you laid when no one was watching. This is the year you move from being a survivor to being a steward. A survivor is just trying to make it through the day, but a steward is someone who manages their resources, their time, and their talents with precision. As your structure rises in 2026, ask yourself, am I managing this new strength well, or am I becoming arrogant? True power is found in the person who has everything but still lives with the discipline of the person who has nothing. Stay hungry. Stay focused. Keep the site clean. This final part of the year is about the finishing touches, which are often the most difficult to master. In construction, the last 10% of the job takes 50% of the energy. It's the intricate electrical work, the plumbing, and the final coat of paint. In your life, these are the nuances of your character. It is the way you treat people when you finally have the upper hand. It is the way you handle your time when you are no longer in a crisis. Many people can rebuild their finances, but they forget to rebuild their relationships. Many can rebuild their bodies, but they leave their spirits in the rubble. A true 2026 rebuild is holistic. It means that every room in the house of your life must be renovated. You cannot have a beautiful living room and a basement full of toxic secrets. Ownership means opening every door, shining a light into every corner, and saying, "This too must be made new." Think about the legacy of this year. We are not just building for December 31st, we are building for 2030, 2040, and beyond. The habits you strip away now are the chains you are breaking for your future children. The ownership you take today is the freedom you are granting to your future self. 2026 is the pivot year of the decade. It is the year where the Great Reset becomes the Great Ascent. But you cannot ascend if you are still holding on to the anchors of 2025. What are those anchors? For some of you, it's a grudge. For others, it's a victim mentality that makes you feel safe in your misery. For many, it's the comfort of being average. I am calling you to strip away the safety of the average life. There is no such thing as safe in a changing world. The only safety is found in your ability to build, adapt, and rebuild again. As the sun begins to set on 2026, I want you to imagine yourself standing on the roof of the life you have created. Look back at the journey. Look at the months where you felt like you were just moving dirt. Look at the months where the foundation was being poured and it felt like nothing was happening. Look at the friends you had to leave behind and the habits you had to bury. Was it worth it? When you look at the strength of the person you have become, a person who doesn't blink in the face of adversity, a person who takes full responsibility for their reality, a person who has mastered the art of subtraction, you will know the answer is a resounding yes. You are no longer a victim of the trends or the economy. You are a builder. And a builder can never be truly poor because they carry their wealth in their skills and their spirit. Let this speech be the final demolition of your excuses. You have the theme. You have the year. You have the ownership. There is nothing left to wait for. The perfect moment was 2025, and it's gone. The necessary moment is 2026, and it is here. Do not walk away from this and simply add another motivational thought to your collection. Walk away and subtract one thing that is holding you back. Stop one habit. End one toxic conversation. Delete one distraction. That is how the rebuild starts. It starts with a vacuum, not a mountain. It starts with the space you create. And in that space, something miraculous will happen. The real you will finally have room to grow. The world is waiting for the 2026 version of you. Not the tired version, not the cluttered version, and certainly not the version that blames the past. They are waiting for the rebuilt version, the one with the deep foundation and the high ceilings. The one that was forged in the fire of ownership and finished with the polish of excellence. You owe it to yourself to see how far you can go when you stop carrying the weight of who you used to be. The blueprints are in your heart. The tools are in your hands. The site is cleared. Now, for the last time, I am telling you, stop adding. Start stripping. Start owning. Start building. As we conclude this journey, remember that words are just the wind, unless they are backed by the stone of action. 2026 is not a year for talkers, it is a year for masons. It is a year for the people who are willing to get their hands dirty in the muck of their own failures to find the gold of their future. You have everything you need. You have survived 100% of your worst days, which makes you an expert in endurance. Now apply that expertise to creation. Build a life that makes the old you look like a stranger. Build a life that you don't need a vacation from. Build a life that stands as a monument to what is possible when a human being decides to take total ownership of their existence. The 2026 rebuild is officially underway. Let's make it the greatest comeback in history.